This episode of the Skip Bayless Show is brought to you by FanDuel, the nation's #1 sports book. LeBron James versus Stephen A. Smith. This is my 2 cents from a distance, no inside knowledge, just my gut feelings, knowing Stephen A. as well as I do, and having been through dozens of clashes with star athletes over the years in locker rooms, on team planes, and many times on live television. So let's start with this. When Stephen A. first spoke about Bronny, this was on First Take in late January, Stephen A. was exactly right about what he said. It was a strong, gutsy opinion. I was proud of Stephen A. for taking that stand, but Stephen A. wasn't the only one in the media at that point expressing that opinion. Stephen A. said on his show in late January, this is on First Take, and I quote, "I am pleading with LeBron as a father, stop this, stop this. We all know Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad, period," end quote. You bet. At that point, we all knew that was the case. I mean, come on. At that point in NBA games, Bronny was 2 of 22 from the floor and 0 for 9 from 3. And the 56 minutes Bronny had played up to that point obviously hadn't come in meaningful stretches. Nope. They were mostly in garbage time with the Lakers way up or way down. So at that point, as I said here on this show, I was horrified by what I'd seen from this kid because he looked petrified on the NBA floor, just the way he'd looked in summer league games, and he played 4 of those. And to think that the night he was drafted by the Lakers with the 55th overall pick, that was in the second round, I truly believed, and I said on television, that Bronny James would soon be the perfect 3-and-D complement to his father in the Laker backcourt, in the big leagues. And I thought he'd be able to hold his own at age 20 and carve out, 10 or 12 good minutes a night in the rotation in meaningful minutes. Then came that summer league. And you know and I know, Bronny just looked lost. He just looked like a scared kid playing among G League men. In those 4 games, he shot 14 of 40 from the floor and 3 of 19 from 3. I didn't see much tenacity, much fight on defense. I saw Bronny James often just run to the corner and hide in the corner on offense. What? And when Stephen A. made that comment on First Take in late January, Bronny from 3 in the summer league, combined with the NBA games, was 3 of 28 from 3. So it was pretty hard at that point to project him as a potential 40% dead-eye, take it to the bank 3-point shooter his father needed alongside his father. I'm here to tell you, in all my years, and I started covering the Lakers out here in LA for the Los Angeles Times in 1977, I have never seen a player on an NBA floor who looked less like an NBA player than Bronny James did in his first 56 NBA minutes. Never, ever. I mean, this was LeBron James' son, an anticipated chip off the old block, a kid who had been playing backyard pickup games against NBA stars since, he was 10 or 12 years of age. And he looked timid. He looked intimidated. He looked lost on a basketball floor like he didn't belong. His body language screamed, "I don't belong out here, and I know I don't belong." It looked like he didn't want to belong in the NBA. And what made Bronny look even worse was that the Lakers' first-round pick, Dalton Knecht, looked like more and more of a steal with the 17th overall pick because Man, Dalton Connect hit the Summer League floor in full on attack mode. And he carried that right into the Lakers preseason games and right on into the regular season games. Dalton Connect is just 100 miles an hour of pure fearless. Dalton Connect is a 37% three-point shooter. Not great, but not bad. That's for the Lakers now. This is in the big leagues. But he can just flame throw and make 4 or 5 in a row with games on the line for the Lakers. Not in the G League, for the Lakers. I don't know if the Lakers got cold feet after they traded Dalton Connect to Charlotte, but it smelled like they went out of their way to fail Mark Williams on his physical when he got to L.A. Remember, Luka pushed for Mark Williams for the Lakers to acquire him from Charlotte. And Charlotte had insisted, of course, on Dalton Connect for Mark Williams. But it's now advantage Lakers. They kept Dalton Connect. But yes, you're right. Connect is 23 years of age, about 3+ years older than Bronny. And by the way, Jordan Goodwin is 26 years of age. Jordan Goodwin is a G League call-up who has also made Bronny look even worse. Even worse because Jordan Goodwin is everything I thought Bronny would be, the ultimate 3-and-D fire starter for the Lakers who comes flying off the bench and just changes the game with his energy and his fury and his 42% three-point shooting. Sort of the un-Bronny. Still, by late January, Bronny was playing a few G League games, but he was still often suiting up for the Lakers. That's home and road. Obviously, at that point, if his name had been LeBron Smith Jr., there would have been no way he'd been on the Lakers bench or roster or in their locker room. If Bronny's name had been, I don't know, Bobby James, LeBron James would have pulled JJ Redick aside and he would have said to JJ, how in the hell is that kid dressing with us? But his name is LeBron James Jr., fortunately or unfortunately for that kid. And he is the firstborn of LeBron and Savannah James. And by all accounts, they raised this young man right. Great young man. Smart, humble, coachable. And now back to Stephen A's operative word, father. Stephen A said, I'm pleading with LeBron as a father. I don't have kids, but I'm old enough to have gone through this cycle with several very close friends who thought they were raising the next Larry Bird or the next Roger Clemens or the next Tiger Woods. Those parents, who I knew very well, just went blind-eyed delusional over their kids. They no longer cared about anything I was doing, and they didn't want to hear anything about their kid except my kid's going to be the greatest ever. Their entire world revolved around their kid from sunrise to bedtime. And I'm pretty sure that's LeBron's world right now. I mean, he's getting to play NBA basketball with his son. So obviously dad's pride is on the line. Dad's pride is not rational. It's not sane anymore. And LeBron knows deep down that his reputation is at stake. And he desperately needs it to be validated by Bronny's NBA growth and performance. As Stephen A said, we all know Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. Bingo. So it was on that fateful Thursday night, March the 6th. Stephen A did something I'm not sure he's ever done. I could be wrong about this, but he sat courtside at a Laker game out here in LA as a fan because his Knicks were in town for their one and only visit to crypto.com for the season. Now, I watched every dribble of that game on TV, but what happened between LeBron and Stephen A was not shown, possibly because the broadcast had gone to commercial. This was during a stoppage of play, some kind of dead ball situation, a timeout, a replay review. I'm not sure what it was, but The game had stopped in the third quarter, and LeBron walked straight over to Stephen A., pretty much blindsided him during the game, and according to Stephen A., said, "You got to stop talking shit about my son. You got to stop fucking with my son. That's my son. That's my son," said Stephen A. Stephen A. also said he responded with, "Let's talk about it after the game." But as he said that, LeBron was turning away and walking back out onto the floor because the game was about to resume. So the entire exchange took, 8 seconds? Now think about this. How weak was that on LeBron's part to choose that time and that place to deliver that message? LeBron knew exactly what he was doing. He knew this one-sided confrontation would be captured on cell cameras and that the video would immediately explode all over the internet and that lip readers would have a field day, or in this case, a field night. But this was a flat-out ambush, a drive-by, a premeditated and calculated move by LeBron James to show up Stephen A. in front of the NBA world while giving Stephen A. no face-to-face time to respond. I mean, what if Stephen A. had at least been able to say, "LeBron, your son's a great kid, but he can't make threes, and I haven't seen him play any defense yet." LeBron didn't want any rebuttal, no facts. This was just a delusionally, irrationally, insanely proud pop telling off Stephen A. Smith, knowing this debate was rigged. Stephen A. would have no time to respond. LeBron hit and LeBron ran. Frankly, that was pretty cowardly. Now, I'm sure Stephen A. would have been happy to continue that discussion after the game in the locker room, maybe after the media had cleared out, or maybe outside the locker room, well, after the game, or I don't know, wherever LeBron wanted to meet up. Nope. This was about as fair as what happened in Gladiator when Commodus mortally wounded Maximus before he had to go out into the Colosseum and fight for his life. So Stephen A. responded to LeBron the only way he could on all of his platforms, along with those of some others. I don't blame him a bit for that. Now, did Stephen A. milk it for all it was worth? Sure he did. That's the business we're all in. LeBron took his shot, which was a cheap shot. Then Stephen A. fired back with all his media might. Way to go, Stephen A. Then LeBron bleeping James, all-time leading scorer in the history of the National Basketball Association, stooped even further, got really, really petty. He chose to go on another ESPN show, Pat McAfee's, the day before the Lakers played at Indy. McAfee's show is based just outside of Indy. LeBron said on that show that Stephen A. is on a Taylor Swift tour run. It was funny, but a petty shot. LeBron, you might as well be the tour director for that Taylor Swift tour. You might as well be the rocket fuel because you're acting far more immature than your 20-year-old son ever thought about acting. LeBron, you took all kinds of personal shots at Stephen A. Tidy whities eating ice cream. I thought all the above or below was so beneath your year 22 NBA dignity. Yeah, Stephen A. took it too far, saying he would have swung on LeBron if LeBron had so much as touched him. But LeBron looked even more foolish reposting that video of Stephen A.'s boxing workout. Womp, womp, womp. And yeah, Stephen A. took it way too far and then out of bounds with that Kobe Memorial Service reference. But remember, Stephen A. is the B-side in this beef. LeBron is supposed to be the A side. Supposed to be. Then LeBron tried on the McAfee show to weasel out of everything by saying, and I quote, that Stephen A. completely missed the whole point. The whole point. Never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport and criticize players about what they do. That is your job, to criticize or to be in a position where if a guy's not performing, that's all part of the game. But when you take it and you get personal with it, it's my job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players. What? LeBron, is your son an NBA player or is he not? Are you saying this is just your son who gets to wear a Laker uniform and just sit down on the end of the bench because he's your son? Is this like every night's Halloween, he gets to dress up and play NBA player? Is that what you're saying? I don't think so. Look, if you truly believe that Bronny's an NBA player worthy of wearing that uniform on a nightly basis, then he's obviously fair game for anyone in the media to critique. You're speaking out of both sides of mouth. And LeBron, what Stephen A. said in late January was completely fair and completely true. If in fact Bronny's supposed to be an NBA player. But you know what? Maybe this was just the jolt that Bronny needed, because on March the 20th against Milwaukee, now in that game there was no LeBron, no Luka, no Austin Reeves, Bronny got to or had to play 30 minutes in what became a 118-89 blowout loss. He showed some life. He showed some flashes, some real NBA-worthy flashes. He scored 17 points. Then I was pleasantly shocked when, this was 4 days later, in a G League game, Bronny James scored 39 points, 39, 7 rebounds, 4 assists with 4 steals. He made 4 of 8 from 3. Are you kidding? Bronny James in the G League is now averaging 22, 5, and 5, and his three-point shooting has risen all the way to 38%. Okay. Thank you, God. Finally, we're all starting to see a little more of what I thought we'd see from the start. Stephen A. has understandably issued an updated opinion of Bronny, saying now he sees the makings of a potentially bona fide NBA player. So do I. Now, you certainly can argue that both LeBron and Stephen A. looked bad as this beef took the low road and pretty much stayed on the low road. Both of them looked bad. But the point was, LeBron started it. The point is, LeBron looked way worse. You still think he's the GOAT?